until a vaccine is found and ready to be delivered in large numbers all over the world, the fog of uncertainty as to how long we might be in this phase is unlikely to get cleared up very soon. What I'm trying to say is that I don't think simply because we relax social distancing norms, people will revert back to life as normal until this uncertainty about second waves, etc., remain. Because it will be a constrained response. We will be concerned about a second wave of the virus. We will be concerned about going back to our original distancing norms relative to the social distancing norms that we have adopted. So this background risk or uncertainty, which I think is the most important change that has occurred in my view, is something to keep at the back of our minds when we think about when we will be able to emerge out of this. Okay, that's first point. Second point, clearly there is an immediate impact of the social distancing norms on economic well-being. And clearly for many of us who are relatively, I would say, beyond the subsistence levels,
Yeah.
even though it impacts our lives, it does not impact it in a manner that it's a game changer, so to speak. However, I hesitate to focus on that. I think we have got to focus at the present time on the economic well-being and hardships of those who do not have the luxury of saying that they are above the subsistence level. And I think uh, how quickly will their lives return to normal, I think is going to partly depend on the scale and the effectiveness of the policy solutions that are being designed and engineered as we speak, even though we are already about 3 months into the pandemic already in many of the countries and in some others even longer. So I think that that also remains unfortunately a question mark, but I would say that I'm hopeful that the authorities will ultimately focus on where the humanitarian response needs to be the strongest and not focus so much on those who are affected. We are all affected,
Mhm.
but the focus has to be on those who are really at or below the subsistence levels of sort of well-being. And third, I would say that and I say this with some hesitation, but I would like to say it, which is that there is some important lessons being drawn that the source of the pandemic may in fact be related to much longer term climate changes that we are experiencing.
Hmm.
There's one view that these zoonotic diseases, zoonotic as in passed to human beings from animals, these zoonotic diseases such as SARS, MERS, coronavirus, that the reason why these are now happening at a higher frequency than we were used to is because fauna animals are moving and migrating from the poles, from the tropics, which are getting very warm, towards the poles, which are now relatively warmer, but of
Mhm.
course not as warm as the tropics are now. Now, as these animals are migrating, they are coming in contact with germs, bacteria, viruses that they don't have immunity for. And as
Mhm.
a result of that, they are getting infected, and through a variety of complex chains, the zoonotic diseases are getting passed on to humanity. Now, broadly speaking, why am I saying all this? The reason why I'm saying all this is that what is apparent to me as an individual, and it is perhaps to many, is that while those below the subsistence levels are not the ones who are probably over consuming, I think there is a big part of the world that is not just over consuming, but is consuming in a manner that is not conducive to having the best climate conditions, best planetary conditions, best sustainability conditions for the quality of human life to remain. I think to me, the coronavirus is almost a sobering moment of that truth. It's a rude awakening of sorts that we have perhaps ignored, where we live on, the air that we breathe, the conditions that we are leaving, likely to leave behind for future generations. And I'm hoping that some of the backtracking of excessive consumption, not so climate friendly consumption that we are undertaking, perhaps will be revisited as a much longer term change in our habits down the road. So while I'm saying is that the fog of uncertainty is likely to remain, The immediate hardships will hopefully be addressed by the policy responses. I am indeed hoping that we adopt more climate friendly consumption policies down the line as almost a permanent change as a result of this sobering moment that we are all living in.
Wow.